Hello everybody and welcome back to Q&A Wednesday. First of all, I just want to say I hope you're all safe and well and you are following all the right guidelines. I know it's all been a bit of murky water at the moment, but you know, as long as we're staying alert and keeping safe and keeping no social distancing, we should be all right. But thank you very much first of all to everybody who has responded to our Q&A request. We've had loads of questions through Patreon, through Facebook and through Instagram, and as ever we're going to do all of the questions that have been sent to us through Patreon, and then I will select one from Instagram and one from Facebook to answer during the show. So let's get straight on with it. Oh, before we make any further, before we go any further, just want to show off my t-shirt, just say thank you to all the NHS staff and key workers. And we're actually filming this on International Nurses Day. So hi mum, thank you very much. My mum's a nurse. She's been working absolutely tirelessly. We've hardly seen her in the last 12 weeks, but she's doing an awesome job. So let's roll straight into it then. We have got the first set of questions from Patreon, and our first one is from Matt Bristow. I believe Matt's asked a question before via Patreon, but let's get straight into it. He says, when fitting windows to the side of your T5, do you put the bonding on the glass or the van? There are as many different methods as there are videos on YouTube. Cheers, Matt. Now you're right, there are different methods out there. However, the method I was shown and the method I use is that you put the bond onto the glass first and then you apply the glass to the van itself. Now obviously you will use your primer first of all onto the areas that you need to have the bond sticking to, but to simply answer your question, onto the glass first and then you stick the glass onto the side of the vehicle. All right, next one, Nathan Evans. I will go through the whole comment that he said, and we'll get to the question right at the end. But Nathan says, "Hi Leigh, please can I just say thank you for all the time and effort you put into making these very informative videos. You are the main inspiration behind buying my T5 long wheelbase project van. I'm trying to learn as much as I can on my own. I'm just finishing off the insulating, then I'm going to carpet and suede line the roof, then complete the floor as per your videos. I am just finishing the insulating." Oh, let me start that again. I'm not sure what to do once I get to the wiring stage. I was under the impression if I used the panel carpet method, I could still complete the wiring at that stage. I want to fit a TV, oven, fridge, and the normal USB ports as per the normal builds. The furniture I shall be ordering is the Evo Designs 2.4 meter. Thank you for your support. Huge comment there, but basically he's asking about the wiring stage. Can he carpet the vehicle, then add the wiring after? Now, if you saw in our last video, or the first of our Q&A Wednesdays, we went into the actual order of building your van. And we said that you should obviously clean the van out, then do the insulating. The next stage is the wiring before you put any ply up, because then you can decide where you're going to have your switches, where you're going to have your lights, run the wiring accordingly, and then put your panels up, and you can cut all the holes for your switches, your USBs, your lights, etc, etc. However, that being said, if you are carpeting the sides of the van and then putting the panels on after, you can get away with the wiring after you've carpeted the side of the van. You can still access things like wiring routes through cavities, but that is obviously before you put your panels on. So to simply answer your question, yes, go ahead and carpet the walls of the van, then do your wiring. This is if you want to do it in that order, but you can get away with carpeting the side walls of the van, then running your wiring, and then applying your carpeted ply panels onto the walls after that. I hope that's quite clear, but thank you very much for the kind words, and we look forward to seeing pictures of your build. Don't forget, if you're on Instagram, hashtag Combe_Valley_campers, and you can hashtag all your builds in our Instagram feed, and we'll share them on our story as well for you. Next question then, from Andrew on Patreon. Hi Leigh, I'm keeping the bulkhead in my van. Do I still need to soundproof the back of the van? I will insulate it with materials from your shop, but soundproofing seems a bit pointless. Do you agree? Thanks as always, Andrew. I would say do what you feel you need to do. Yes, you can leave the sound deadening in the back of the van. However, the more sound deadening you put in, the quieter your van will be. You've probably seen that I have bought a T4 van and we're restoring it or building it up on our channel. And although I'm going to be keeping in the bulkhead for the most part, I will still be sound deadening the back of the van just to keep that road noise down, because you get so much noise and panel resonance in the back, and in that sealed tin box, it does just boom and echo. So the more you can keep those panels from resonating, the quieter your van will be on a run, especially on long distances as well. So you can only do say a 50% coverage rather than a full 100% coverage like you would have seen on our sound deadening videos. So yeah, maybe just put one panel of sound deadening on each of the big panels, and that will reduce that panel resonation from the ambient noise and from the road noise, external noise as well. Hope that clears it up for you. Thank you very much for your question. Next one is from Mathieu Davy. He says, highly perfect timing. I've got 3 questions for you. How many screws to hold the 12mm floor in place? I've got 9mm ply battens glued down, glued below. So this is the first of the 3 questions. In fact, I'll run through the 3 questions first and then I'll answer them in turn. Second question, can you find pre-cut ALTRO flooring right now? Harrison Trims is understaffed and can't do it yet. Question 3, what to do with my leftovers of sound deadening, thermo liner and thermo fleece? 3 good questions. First one then, how many screws to hold the 12mm ply floor in place? I've got 9mm battens glued down below. Open question. Depending on whether you've got, well, you might be having an interior down one side of the van and a rock and roll bed, and that will help pin down your floor, so you may get away with less screws. However, I would say an even distribution down the length of each of those ply panels will secure that floor down and stop it from vibrating, because obviously you want to keep the floor down and in place, that's great, but you want to stop the wood vibrating against the wood ply battens, for example. And also, if you've got 2 pieces of ply on the floor, and once you've screwed them down to the battens, you might find one is slightly higher than the other. You might want to add an extra screw to each one of those 2 meeting pieces of ply, just to make sure they're level. So when you lay your flooring on top, there will be no visible or actual physical bump there, so you don't see a mark in the floor. So evenly placed along the 9mm battens, you should be fine. I can't say how many exactly, but evenly placed, and to make sure that you don't get the vibrations. Next question on Patreon. Excuse the train, this is how close I live to the train line. It doesn't happen that often. I hope we only have that one train today. Next question, Gordon Jackson Scott Walker. Hi Leigh, I'm in the process of doing my T5. Seems to be a lockdown favourite now, and have followed your methods to the T with great results. Thank you. I would like to change my rear tinted window for a sliding one to help with the ventilation. What's the best way to remove an existing window? Keep up the great work. Stay safe. Gords. Now, Gords, I would suggest you employ a professional window fitter or somebody who is used to removing windows from your vehicle, if that's what you choose to do. I'm going to be 100% honest, I've never removed a window because I know my limits when it comes to windows, and actually removing them using, now I don't know if I'm getting the terminology right, but it's basically like a cheese wire. You've got to thread the wire through the existing bonding sealant between the glass and the bodywork, and you've got to slowly and very carefully cut that bond all the way around the window. Now, if you're a do-it-yourself, then please watch the videos, get guidance, but I would seriously suggest that you get an expert to remove that glass for you, because there is a chance you could damage the inside of the van, damage the glass, damage the paintwork, and that's a whole world of hurt, and you don't want to go down that route. So yeah, seek or employ a professional to do that, I would suggest. Last question on Patreon is from Rory. Hi Leigh, I'm thinking about buying a Sprinter ambulance to convert, as it already has cupboards. What are your thoughts? Rory, I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. If I was to go and get a Sprinter van for conversion, I would seriously look at ambulance conversions. They are big, they are well equipped, they are well looked after, and they have a leisure battery system or a secondary battery system already in place. They've got a very intelligent power system already in place. They have heater, they have air conditioning, they have the furniture, they have the insulation. They are a really, really good basis to start from ambulances. And I know a few people who are, say, overlanders. They've used an ambulance as a good basis. And if you follow any other YouTuber self-builder camper vans, a really good Sprinter-based camper van channel is Project Amber. A few of you may already know it, but he's got a really awesome converted Sprinter ambulance, so go check him out as well. We'll leave a description down below. So that's it for Patreon. If you give us 2 seconds, I will transfer over to Instagram. Right then, from Instagram we had 5 questions today, so thank you everybody. Today I have picked at Lisa and Aid, and they have said, can you use the Dodo Mat Duo instead of the separate deadening and insulation that you used in your deadening video? Will it be the same result even though it's slightly thinner? Regards, Aid. Yes, you can use the Dodo Mat Duo instead of the separate deadening and insulation. However, you're right, it's slightly thinner, but it will give you the same effect in the van. I would tend not to use it, only because I have greater control of where I can apply it when I'm dealing with the smaller separate sound deadener sheets and then the actual thermo liner itself. The Dead Mat Duo is quite heavy, it's quite bulky, and it's quite difficult to cut up into smaller shapes. So if you want to really get in the crevice or the corner of a van, cutting that into smaller shapes would be a bit more difficult than, say, the smaller 2mm. So to answer your question, yes, you can use it. Yes, you will get very, very similar results. However, you may want to only go for, say, a 50% coverage of your, say, Dodo Hex Mat sound deadener. You may not want to cover the entire panel 100%. So you will reduce some costs there, and you reduce some labour time there as well. And I believe if you were to do 100% coverage on Hex Mat and van liner, it would come out slightly cheaper than covering the whole van in Dead Mat Duo. So maybe do a little bit more research into the coverage you definitely want to do. But yeah, to simply answer your question, yes, it would do the same job, but I think you would probably find it easier and maybe a little bit cheaper if you were to go for the Hex Mat from Dodo and then the Thermo van liner. And don't forget, you can get it all via our website. Check down below. All of the sound deadening products that we've been talking about, you can buy from www.coombecampers.co.uk/products. You can go and get it down there. The next question we have then, so that was from Instagram. Thank you everybody for asking the questions on Instagram. I am now going to head over to Facebook and pick a question from there. Thank you very much to all our supporters on Facebook. You are awesome. And thank you back to the 4 of you. Thank you to the 4 of you for getting back to us so quick. I only put out this question at 4 o'clock today. It's 9 o'clock now. It's dark. We're filming this outside my house. We're filming it outside because Ali's filming today. It's the social distancing. Hello, Ali. Thank you so much for coming back so late. But we wanted to get the video out for you for Wednesday. So the question I am going to answer is from Emma Denise on Facebook. As a relatively new VW owner and a complete mechanical novice, what would you say are the basics that you would recommend that I should be checking on my van regularly, and how often? Thanks. Now, some of you may or may not know, I am an ex-military man. And when we used to go and use military vehicles, we used to have to do what's called a first works check on the vehicle. So if we were using any Land Rover, any Bedford truck, any military vehicle, before we were even allowed to take it out of the compound, we were given a check sheet and we had to do all of the checks on those vehicles. Even if we took it out earlier that day, we'd have to go through the list of those checks. And one of the first things was the bulbs. So you'd go round the whole vehicle with somebody else, because obviously you can't check all the bulbs at the same time. So check the operation of all the lights and all the bulbs. So that's brakes, that's indicators, that's things like that. if you're getting high-low beam, and especially if your hazards work. I would recommend you check the tyre pressures, for example. Having squidgy front tyres will make your steering heavier and make the vehicle maybe wallow to one side or the other. They're two quite basic checks as well. Mechanically, I would check your oil, and I would check your coolant. Now, I know Emma has a 1.9 DG engine Type 25 or T3, and very handy to let you know that we have a video just here which shows you how to do all the maintenance on a T3. And in that video, we go through pulling down the flap at the back of the van just behind the number plate, and that's where you can go and check your coolant levels and your oil levels as well. So checking the coolant levels and the oil levels, especially in an older vehicle, is absolutely key. But going back to the tyres, actually having a good check of all of the conditions of the tyres as well, and that's not just on the outside of the vehicle, outside of the wheel, that's obvious, but on the inside of the tyres again. Sorry, train number 2. 1 second. That was a long one. So yes, checking the condition of the tyres is very important, not just the outside face, but the treads and the inside face as well. Trying to think what else. Oh, definitely oil levels, definitely coolant levels, tyre pressures, bulbs. And if you haven't moved the vehicle for a long time, maybe before you take it out for a big journey, maybe just drive it around the block a couple of times and maybe just have a go on the brakes, remove any surface rust that may have accumulated on the brake discs over a period of time. And I'm trying to think, that's your basics maintenance you can check on your vehicle to ensure that when you get in it, you're not going to have too many problems down the road. Again, we'll put a link to the video. And if you want, what we can do actually for you, and we'll get this done in the next couple of weeks, we're going to do a blog post on our website, www.coombecampers.co.uk, where we'll go through the 10 best regular maintenance checks that you can do on your camper van, especially after using it for a period of time, say after lockdown. How's that sound? We'll get that done for you. So, thank you very much. It's getting a bit chilly now. It must be, what, 10 o'clock, Ali? Something like that. But thank you so much. Again, thank you to all the NHS staff and key workers wearing this t-shirt, loud and proud for you all. But thank you very much, everybody. We shall see you next time, and stay safe.